Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here on a Tuesday morning as we are ready to help you carpe the diem. And it's going to be fun while we do it, by the way. Coming up at 7:15, Lee Zeldin, former congressman and just this close to being the stunning, shocking Republican governor of New York. We're going to talk to him about today's New York primary and how things are going with the Trump campaign, as he is a major advisor and player in it. It's 7:35, Peyton McNabb. She's one of the athletes affected by men playing in women's sports. She's on that IWF bus tour rolling into D.C. today, and we're going to get all the details. Our own Patrice Onwuka will be the MC of the event today down at Nats Park. Then at 8:05, Nick Minnock, WJLA, with a few Emmys in his back pocket for his investigative journalism. We'll talk to him about his latest stories. And at 8:35, our pal, Chris Elston, Billboard Chris, trying to protect our children from the ravages of so-called gender transition therapies. What is it? Gender-affirming care. That's what they call it, gender-affirming care. I can't even get my brain to
like
say those
crazy
words.
Woke language is what that is.
That's Mercedes
Gender-affirming
Schlapp,
care.
chomping at the bit and jumping in here to join us. Good morning, Mercedes.
Good morning. I've got to spend so many mornings with you lately. It's been insane. It's been great.
It's...
I guess.
Sort of
I'm so joyful.
It's been, it's been terrific. It's been
terrific. It's been so fabulous.
It's really great. Boy, do I need a vacation. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
No, but I have huge admiration for you, Larry. Yeah, you all don't realize it is to get up so early in the morning. And, for those people that have to get up so early in the morning every day, God bless you all.
Mercedes, everyone listening to us right now has to do the exact same thing.
I'm saying that I have...
They're our family. We love our 5 a.m. friends.
Well, Larry, that's what I'm trying to say. I have a deep appreciation for all of those individuals who have to get up so early in the morning.
Doesn't it, though, when you're done with your workday at 9, 10 a.m., don't you feel like, man, I'm so far ahead of everyone else in my life?
No, because I have to keep working till really late at night.
That is the downside.
I'm a little off right now, and apparently I'm a little grumpy, according to my husband.
Yeah. Well, good. Let him deal with it. Listen, yesterday, during our 8 o'clock hour, and by the way, so those of you who, are 5 a.m. listeners, we do love you, and we know that oftentimes you listen to us on your way into work, and sometimes your work involves a skiff, and you're like on a news blackout from the moment you get to work, and you don't really find out what happened the rest of the day until you hear our pal Vince Colonnese on the drive home. If you miss the later hours of our show, you can always subscribe to our podcast and then pick up some of the interviews that we tell you about, right? Like we're going to have Lee Zeldin coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. If you have to already be at work and you can't listen to the radio, well, then you're going to miss what Lee Zeldin has to say. Or Mondays with Joe DeGenevis. Subscribe to that podcast where you can catch up with what we've been doing. And yesterday, what you missed during the 8 o'clock hour was this remarkable moment where CNN morning host Casey Hunt interrupted the spokesperson for the Trump campaign because she didn't like what the spokesperson for the Trump campaign had to say. And, listen, this may be just a normal day in the American media and how it covers Donald Trump and Republican candidates, but it really resonates this week because on Thursday, CNN will be the hosting network for the presidential debate. And the topic that led Casey Hunt to unprofessionally cut off that microphone of the spokesperson for the Republican nominee for president, it was the debate itself, and even more importantly, the fairness of the moderators. Take a listen to what happened if you missed it.
It takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now later this week in Atlanta for this debate.
She was, as you could hear, breathless, unnerved. Yes. Her voice was shrill. Donald Trump, who you work for?
Honey.
She got a little red in the face. It was one of the most unprofessional broadcast moments I've seen in my lifetime.
They finally, this was a golden moment. For the first time, one CNN host finally understands what it is to be on the other side of being constantly attacked. Seriously. We were attacked all the time. Breonna Keller, I remember those CNN interviews in 2020. It was horrible. We were treated so poorly, so unfairly. It was always constantly, well, you're a liar, you're a this, you're a that. It didn't matter. And so Casey Hunt could not even handle Caroline Leavitt bringing up a fact. Fact that that Jake Tapper, basically called Trump, Adolf Hitler. There is no way you can have a fair debate.
And you're right. And here's the thing. But Casey Hunt later took to the X social media platform and said, if you have to show my colleagues respect. She never said these were lies, this wasn't true, Jake Tapper never did that. No, she found it disrespectful to point out the truth. And here is the truth. Take a listen. Here's just a small sampling of how the moderators for this Thursday's debate think one of the candidates is Adolf Hitler.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well on a national political stage. This time, of course, in the United States. This time given life by former president and current Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump.
Let's recognize this comment for what it is, a long-standing anti-Semitic trope that the true allegiance for Jews is to their religion rather than their country. It was used in Nazi Germany to justify the arrests, persecutions, and mass killings, attempted extermination of the Jewish people. And Trump has been pushing this trope for years.
There you go. Just a little sampling, and that is truly a little sampling. There's minutes worth of cuts over the last several years of Jake Tapper and Dana Bash doing the same thing. Have you ever heard of the Streisand effect, Mercedes? The Streisand
all I
effect.
know is that I think she's going to leave America if Trump gets elected. So,
well, years and years and years ago, Barbara Streisand, when the internet was brand new, she was mortified to find out that an aerial shot of her vast mansion estate in Malibu was available for people to see on the internet. So people could see what her home and her compound looks like, because a helicopter off the coast of California can take that picture. It's perfectly legal, and it's perfectly legal to post it. Well, she started complaining, and she wanted the authorities to take it down. She wanted that picture removed from the internet. All she did was draw so much attention to it that millions and millions and millions and millions more people saw her home in Malibu than ever would have seen it if she had just shut her mouth. That's called the Streisand effect. We now have to recall it the Casey Hunt effect, because if Casey Hunt had just shut her mouth, let Ms. Leavitt say what she had to say about Jake Tapper, and then she could have followed up and saying, listen, Ms. Leavitt, I appreciate you expressing your opinion, and we encourage our viewers to tune in Thursday night to judge for themselves how fair and balanced my colleagues are. That's all she had to do.
She actually could have, if she would have been somewhat smart, Casey could have gone back and said, well, didn't President Trump use this comment? Like, she could have turned it around. She didn't do it.
If she wanted.
If she wanted. All I'm saying is that you could tell she was emotionally frazzled and did not know how to handle Caroline Leavitt. She's so thin. Casey Hunt is so thin-skinned. It was so unprofessional. And I'm just shocked that CNN is even allowing her to host the show, because I think it's
wonder
really
what she's going to say this morning when she gets on the air.
I know, but
hold that thought.
Like,
a little bit more on this, and as we ramp up for the debate, and we got Lee Zeldin joining us at 7:15 to talk about the debate coming up too. But we go talk about CNN a little bit more, and whether this is a good window into how bad it's going to be, and whether the Trump campaign maybe should rethink it here 2 days out. 5:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives, Jamie Witten's in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center. 17.
WMAL. Making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL. Making sense of social media, because big tech can't be trusted. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Now, there are apologists out there who said, well, what's wrong with her just defending her colleagues? She was defending her colleagues, So, listen, it's great. It's noble for people to want to defend their colleagues. First of all, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are the moderators of the presidential debate. They both have their own shows on CNN. They're big boys with grown-up pants, or in one of their cases, grown-up
stiletto heels.
Dresses.
Yeah.
Well, does Jake still wear those? He's not. Wait.
He might.
Anyway, they can defend themselves, all right? If anything, it infantilizes your colleagues. When somebody comes on this show and starts bashing Chris Plant or starts bashing Mark Levin, I'm like, okay, well, get ready, because when they're on the air, you're really going to hear it. But I'm not going to cut them off. I'm not going to throw them off the show. When your instinct, in the spirit of defending your colleagues, when your instinct is to censor, shut off mics, and throw someone off your show in a hissy fit, you reveal the fact that you are uncomfortable with certain facts that you don't know how to deal with. That's not a journalist's job. That's not a broadcaster's job. And it reveals who CNN is.
Well, my personal experience with CNN, which, we used to go, Matt and I would go on CNN often beforehand.
Yeah.
And literally, there was a shift. By the time we got to 2020, there was an enormous shift, and it was they despised you. They hated. They thought you were the most awful human. It's what they really do think about the MAGA voter.
Right.
They think that they're uneducated. How dare they support Donald Trump and his beliefs? And so their ultimate goal is always to destroy you. And this is how President Trump has to go into this debate. It is CNN will do everything they can to be the decider in this election and destroy Donald Trump. And that is the reality. And President Trump will have to point it out. And they just showed their they showed their true colors.
That's
right. They just did with Caroline Leavitt.
This is a great preview of the debate Thursday, because they'll either cut Trump's mic off, or Trump will say what he wants to say, and then Tapper will come in and say, well, let me just, we have standards here, and I need to tell our viewers that everything that President Trump just said is a big steaming pile of crap, and here's why.
Which is what they're saying, that they're going to be fact-checking is what I read, during the debate, and trying to, correct them.
Yeah, where's the fact-checking and correction of Joe Biden for the last, 50 years of his career? If there's one skill set Joe Biden has, it's lying on television to win votes. It's what he did in the last debates. Now CNN Chris Wallace colleague let him lie about the laptop, let him lie about COVID, let him lie about Trump, let him lie about Russia. Doug Hay, a former RNC spokesperson, was on the panel.
Well, let me make this clear. An anti-Trump, Friends of Michael Steele type of Republican.
Doug Hay, yeah. He was there with Michael Steele, was there, who's now an MSNBC host, right? Yeah. He's a friend. Doug High. He's a friend of Casey Hunt. He was on Bret Baier, and here's what he said to Bret yesterday about this.
And Brett, I talked to Casey Hunt earlier today. She's a good friend, and I know that if I came on the show and gave out all the things that I find objectionable about Shannon Bream, there are zero, by the way. You wouldn't put up with that.
Evil Shannon Bream?
Exactly. You wouldn't put up with that. And I think Casey was very right to defend her colleagues. That's what you do. She did her job, and I think she should be commended for it. She's obviously, you're going to have a tough time on your hands when you're getting campaign surrogates on your show. That happens everywhere, but you're going to stand up for your colleagues. That's normal.
Yeah. She could have moved on and come back to a different topic. I get it. One last thing, fundraising. The fundraising in May.
Yeah, all right. Well, actually, by the way, fundraising, I'm sure Trump will fundraise off this. Sorry, Doug, you're completely off base here, but I'm glad he raised Shannon Bream, because here's the interesting thing. If Fox were to host this debate, it would be a combination of Bret Baier, Martha McCallum, and Shannon Bream probably, yes, to be the moderators. And they don't conduct themselves like Jake Tapper. They don't act like Dana Bash. I just tweeted out a video from 2016 where Dana Bash did this whole monologue about how to explain the presidential election results to your children, because Hillary lost. How do you explain this to your daughters? And all that. It's like, it wouldn't have happened over on those networks. See, Mercedes, I think the Trump campaign should seize on this and say, you know what? We're not showing up Thursday to deliver all those ratings to you unless Casey Hunt apologizes, unless Casey Hunt lets Ms. Leavitt back on the show and let her have her say. Otherwise, you're showing yourselves to be the censor-loving, totalitarians that you are. Why not? Why not threaten to pull out of the debate at this point? Because this is a good indication of how it's going to go.
Because I think, quite frankly, he should have never agreed to do this debate. I think it is set up for CNN. It's the only possible chance that Biden has of having a bump in his poll numbers. If he can keep it together. Now, he's been on vacation for 7 days. I don't know about you, Larry. I haven't been on vacation for 7 days. Have you been on vacation for 7 days?
That would be amazing.
No.
I mean, I will be in September.
Okay, well, I mean, but aren't you even working? Because it's that cruise thing. So you're kind of working.
It'll be a working vacation. Yeah.
It's a working vacation because you have to be nice and kiss babies and talk to the old ladies and stuff like that.
The point is, yes, Biden is able to enjoy something that nobody else
right. So he gets to be
able.
in nature doing yoga and getting IVs put into his body so he looks plump and rosy before the campaign and before the debate. For Donald Trump, it will be Tapper, who despises Donald Trump. Yep. Dana Bash, who also has had, I think, very troubling comments about Donald Trump, and Biden, all against Trump. So there's no audience, and it's going to be the whole thing is going to be so awkward. And that's where you're going to see Donald Trump just punch and punch and punch, and
ultimately,
hit back. And he's going to be very unafraid. It's what he used to do at the White House with these crazy people. I mean, we had Jim Acosta back then. Give me a break.
Let me just wrap this up real fast by just reminding everybody that, as usual, attacks on Trump and attacks on Trump's spokespeople and surrogates, ultimately it's about you. And what you just saw from CNN, the host of this Thursday's debate, what you saw from CNN through Casey Hunt is a really important message. They don't trust you to evaluate what you hear on your own. They don't trust you to learn what Jake Tapper, the moderator, thinks of Donald Trump. They would sooner cut off the microphone and throw off the guest than let you hear something that they don't approve of, because that's how little they think of you and your intelligence. Because this is CNN. It's 524.
You have the power.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36 this Tuesday morning, 25th day of June. Thanks for tuning in here on a busy news day, as they all are. We've got you going in terms of preview for the Thursday debate. There's also a lot in the news, including the plea deal that will have Julian Assange be a free man. How do we feel about that? Well, we'll get into it a little later. Plus, at 7:15, Lee Zeldin will join us. 7:35, Peyton McNabb. Oh, again, this is in the news, too. The IWF bus tour to save women's sports rolling into town. Peyton McNabb is one of those athletes. She'll give us a preview today. Also at 8:05, Nick Minnock, Emmy Award-winning reporter at Channel 7. And then at 8:35, Billboard Chris Elston. The U.S. Supreme Court agreed yesterday to hear a challenge to ban transgender care for minors, a huge step in the right direction. We will get to all of that. I'm Larry O'Connor, alongside the effervescent and glorious hot Latina Mercedes Schlapp. Good morning, Mercedes.
Only you can get away with saying something like that.
I meant hot
Larry,
in terms of you come from a hot region of the world.
Yeah.
The climate.
I'll take it. I'm all about that. Yes,
Miami.
totally. The hot mama. That would be me. Larry.
Yes, ma'am.
So we were just chatting about Julian Assange. I know we're going to get into that. Are we supposed to stay on topic?
We're going to, you know what, that's a tease. We're going to let everyone hear our thoughts about Julian Assange in about 30 minutes. We'll get into that.
Okay.
But I want to talk about Eugene Vindman first. He's the Democrat nominee for the 7th District of Virginia. He's lived there a few years, I think 5 years, 6 years, I think. He, of course, the brother of the twin brother Vindman, whose claim to fame is violating his oath at the National Security Council by revealing private conversations that the commander-in-chief had that led to the first failed impeachment of Donald Trump. He's a hero of the left. He's a hero of MSNBC. He's the Democrat nominee, and he's running against a true hero of this country, Derek Anderson, who has served multiple combat tours in war as an Army Ranger. It's a great race in Virginia 7. Eugene Vindman, in his first major national interview, told MSNBC exactly why he's running and why he represents the people of Virginia 7. Listen to this. It's cut 5 here, Michael. Listen if you can, especially if you're a voter in Northern Virginia. Listen if you hear anything about your life, about the economy, about crime, about illegal immigration and the border. If you hear anything from Eugene Vindman that affects your daily life, listen.
You know, you're now running against the Republican candidate, the Republican nominee, who has a military background. He's a former Green Beret, and he as well is backed by, Derek Anderson is backed by Speaker Mike Johnson. So how do you expect to distinguish yourself from another military man?
Can we pause for a quick second there,
Oh my
please?
goodness.
What the hell has happened to Andrea Mitchell?
I was going to say, you and I think so much alike. I think she was having a Biden moment. I mean, total Biden moment.
This is why on MSNBC everybody's like, Joe seems fine to us. I mean, look at Andrea.
You have Casey Hunt, who is like an emotional basket case, and then you have Andrea Mitchell, who can't even finish a sentence. Someone supported by
You're
Mike
running
Johnson.
against you know the thing.
What's his name? Larry O'Connor.
Whatever. Just talk. I'm still getting paid. All right, here's your nominee for Congress. Here's his answer to that question.
The values that I embraced over the course of a 25-year military career, defending the Constitution at home and abroad. Mr. Anderson is diametrically opposed to some of these values. I fought to preserve rights and freedoms for Americans, and he is looking to take them away. On Monday is the second anniversary of the Dobbs decision. And, Mr. Anderson is endorsed by Mike Johnson, who is very much in favor of a 6-week abortion ban with no exceptions for rape and incest. He is very much in favor of having politics in our classrooms. We have a problem in this district with extremist school boards looking to ban books and burn books. He's very much in this extremist camp that is not consistent with the values of the voters in this district. And he's out of sync. And I'm very much, having raised a family in Northern Virginia, having had 2 kids that have gone to school here, having a 14-year-old daughter. So happy birthday, Maddie. I care deeply about this issue, and he is out of sync with these issues.
Wow. All right. So there you go. Again, did you, other than all the ums from Mr. Vindman, did you hear anything about the economy, anything about the cost of eggs, anything about the lack of educational opportunities in your schools these days? Did you hear anything about the border? Did you hear anything about crime? Did you hear anything about commuting and traffic? Did you hear anything about helping our veterans? Did you hear anything about anything that affects your life? No. You heard we got to keep abortion legal up until the moment of birth. And I hope you caught this. He characterized any parent who lives in the 7th District of Virginia, any parent who wants to have a seat at the table and a say as to whether your children are delivered gay porn in the government-funded schools. He called you an extremist.
So, first of all, he had about 50 ums. It felt like someone was holding like a whiteboard in front of him, basically saying, these are the 2 things you need to say. Like, they're going to ban abortions and let and there's MAGA extremists, right? So
he's running
let's
against
just get
Trump.
This right. This is what they're doing. This is their whole strategy. This is what the Democrats ran on in the midterm election when Trump was not on the ballot in 2022. But here's the deal. The reality is that this is an opportunity for whoever's managing Derek Anderson's campaign to cut an ad with Terry McAuliffe and Eugene Vindman on this whole concept of what was a comment of Terry McAuliffe?
I don't think parents should have a say in the books in our schools.
Parents have no say.
That's right.
So inside the classroom.
My thought was, who's Vindman's campaign manager? Terry McAuliffe? That's exactly what's going on here.
All I'm saying is cut the ad with those 2 things, because that is Eugene Vindman sounds like another Terry McAuliffe they do not believe in parents' rights. And you said it, you posted it on X. The Democrat running for Virginia 7 says it's extremist for parents to have a say in whether children are given gay porn in government schools.
That's
and
right.
This is where we are. These are the fights that we're having, especially during a time where cost of living is high, house prices are high, rent is high, the cost of diapers, the cost of baby formula. Let's be real.
They think that Trump hatred. They think Trump hatred is going to be enough to win that seat. That's why Vindman's there, because his last name is Vindman. But I don't know. I still have faith in the voters in Northern Virginia that they actually care about a man who's going to fight for you and make sure that you have a better life through the federal government, through as your representative. It's going to be quite a race. It's 5. Meanwhile, in Maryland, Larry Hogan has a strategy. His strategy is to run as a Republican, but not one of those kind of Republicans, right? On the anniversary of the Dobbs decision, Larry Hogan jumped to social media to remind everybody that he is in full support of a woman's right to choose. Don't worry about him as one of those kind of Republicans. And I oppose Donald Trump. I'm not one of those kind of Republicans. He's a pro-abortion and anti-Trump kind of Republican, Mercedes. But here's the funny thing about Maryland. Given the choice between a pro-abortion, anti-Trump Republican and a pro-abortion, anti-Trump Democrat, Maryland seems to be choosing the Democrat. The latest poll of Larry Hogan, the two-time incumbent Republican governor, versus Angela Alsobrooks shows Alsobrooks with a double-digit lead, 45-34. The Democrat, Angela Alsobrooks, who's been running on, we got to stop the Republicans, they're going to take abortion away from us and all these other things, she seems to be beating Larry Hogan. So, Larry Hogan thinks his strategy will work, but I don't know. See, if I'm in Maryland and I want someone who's going to oppose Donald Trump, it seems to me the attractive young African-American woman seems to be a better choice than just another old white guy Republican.
Well, it'd be better to have a Republican, but then when you get stuck with the label of Republican and you're really a closet Democrat in a lot of ways, like a Mitt Romney. That's a perfect example. He's done more to try to stop the Trump agenda than he has than like Chuck Schumer. So it's like, okay, well, dude, then become a Democrat. And so I think for Larry Hogan, this happens a lot in states where they might want, although it might be Democrat leaning, which I don't understand why Maryland has to be so Democrat leaning, because there's so many great patriots out there, including you, Larry, and Heather Hunter. But I live in Virginia. But they want the governor who's a Republican because it's kind of like the fiscal responsibility, and it doesn't get into all the social issues necessarily. But whenever it's, but in the Senate, they like these Democrats. It happens, Kansas is actually interesting. It's reversed. Like the state of Kansas, you have a Democrat governor. You would think Kansas is a red state, and then you have Republican senators.
Right, but if you're a Democrat there, you got to run like a Republican. Yeah.
True, but if you're going to run in Maryland, you're going to run as a Democrat, and so you have these grassroots Republicans who are not energized about Larry Hogan, but they recognize that this other candidate is an extremist.
And for anybody who's saying, why are you talking down the Republican? It's still better to have a Republican. I agree. So I'll give Larry Hogan some advice. Not that he will listen, but from one Larry to another, pal. First of all, stop ticking off alienating Republican. You cannot win without Republican voters.
Yes.
So throw Republicans a bit of a bone here. Yeah. All right. And stop ticking them off and sticking your finger in their eyes. Number one. And number two, embrace the fact that you're a Republican and say, listen, instead of saying, I'm not one of those icky Republicans that you don't like. No, just say this. I'm a Republican who can actually get stuff done. I have a track record. You know who I am. I have served you before. And one other bit of advice. The reason you won both of your governor's races as a Republican in Maryland is not because everybody thought that you were so attractive and you were so, magnetic and you were so charismatic. No, it was because you were running against lunatic extremists. Between Ben Jealous and Anthony Brown, the voters said, listen, I'm not a Republican, but I'd rather have this guy than that crazy person. You need to run against the extreme positions of your opponent. Out there embracing abortion is not the way to do it.
No.
You need to say, listen, I may not line up as your typical pro-life Republican, but what Angela Alsobrooks stands for, abortion up to the moment of birth, is outrageous.
Larry
you need to
O'Connor
run against that.
For
you need to,
Senate.
Run against the transgender agenda.
Yeah.
Run against how the left has poisoned our schools.
Go back to immigration. Go back to
thank
immigration
you.
and the economy. This is
Run
so
against
basic,
sanctuary
people.
policy.
It's so basic.
Run against the rampant crime in Prince
Yeah.
George's County. Stop putting every statement out having to do with Donald Trump. You sound like you're obsessed with Donald Trump, Larry Hogan, because you are. It's
Larry.
5:53.
Oh.